There was no refrigerators, but around the well there would be a shelf. And of course the well was cold. And so that was their refrigerator, that shelf around the inside of the well. So when you wanted to get the butter for lunch, you went outside to the well and opened the well and took the butter off the shelf. Track of what I was saying. It's fun getting old. You never know what's going to happen.
All right, I'm ready whenever you are.
I don't know whether I'm ready or not.
Do you remember your grandparents very much?
My grandparents, well, let's see. In their later days, they all lived with us at one time or another. My mother's dad died at our house. I was 12 years old, and I was over at my girlfriend's house, and I had ridden my bike over there, and I was supposed to be back at a certain time, and I was running a little late, and Grandma didn't like you to be late. She was a very, I don't want to say straight-laced, but that sounds too straight, but she had her rules and her way things were to be done. And so I was really worried about getting home, and I got home and she had died.
Oh, really?
She was sitting in her bed reading her Bible, and she had died. And of course, Mom and Dad were at work, and you didn't call people at work back in those days. And so I was 12 years old. I didn't know what to do. I felt guilty that maybe if I had come home on time, everything would have been all right, which probably wasn't the case at all. But I really felt bad, and I didn't know what to do. And finally I thought, well, Mrs. Bruce down the street, I babysat her kids all the time. I'll go down and ask her what to do. And so she kind of took over, and that was fine. But that was kind of a hard thing to find her.
What is the earliest memory you can remember?
My earliest memories. I think the earliest memories is when I was pretty little. We'd go over to my dad's sister's house, Aunt Marie's house, and her and her husband would have us over for dinner or things like that. And I can remember, in fact, I've got the dish in here. When she died, they wanted to know if I wanted anything, and I took the dish. She always had this round dish with a metal lid on it, and it always had candy in it. And we didn't have candy sitting around. We didn't have money for candy. You had to buy food. And she always would say, take a piece of whatever you want. And that was like heaven. Oh my gosh, candy!
There's a lot of stuff that's changed in your lifetime. Air conditioning, computers, television. What do you think was one of the biggest impact kind of invention or changes that has happened in your lifetime?
The thing I think that has changed the most in society that has impacted me more than anything else is the morals and the relationships of people. Back when I was growing up, if you said you were going to do something, you did it. And you did it to the best of your ability. There was no doubt about it. That's what you did. If you told somebody you'd do it, you do it. This day and age, it doesn't seem to be that way. We had some crime, but not like you have now. Now you turn the television on, and every day somebody shot somebody. I mean, it's the respect for people, for life, for everything is disappeared.
Did you get into trouble very much when you were a kid?
Oh, I'd say I'd never got into trouble, but I don't know if my mother and dad would say that. People did not have refrigerators. Maybe if you were very wealthy, you would have a refrigerator. But 9 times, most of the people didn't. In our house at that time, actually, you'd go up on the back porch, and there was a door in the wall that you could open that door, and it opened right into the ice box. So your iceman would come and put the ice in it, and you'd get charged for it once a year. Well, that was a highlight of the summer. Is every day or every other day, whenever the iceman came, they have the big chonkers, they would hold onto the ice and they'd throw it over their shoulder. Well, in doing that, they would always chip off ice, big chips. And all the kids, 30, 40 kids, chasing after the iceman to try to get those chips. It was, well, it was really, a real treat to get those. And they weren't fussy like they are now. Anything touches the ground, and some parents are ready to.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think kids have to pick up so much off the floor when they're young. Not bad things, but just general things. It builds up their immunity. Otherwise, they're sick with every little thing that comes along. During the war at that house, we turned the backyard into a victory garden, like many people did. And so we raised all our own vegetables and things like that. And it was very common because you just couldn't get it without ration stamps, many things. Oh, something came across my mind. We had a dog named Pal. And to get meat or groceries or things, they didn't have the stores like they do now. You went to a grocery store, or you went to a meat market, or you went to a drugstore, or you went to a bakery, or you went to a variety store, things like that, a delicatessen. You didn't have combinations. And the drugstores all had soda fountains and stuff. During those days, you had to have ration stamps for everything during the war. We had a dog named Pal, and he learned to walk down to the meat market, and he'd just sit out in front of the meat market, and he'd sit there and he'd sit there until the fellas would wrap up bones in white paper, and they'd take them out to him. He'd carry those bones all the way home and sit down under our cherry tree, pull the package open, and eat his bones. He did that regularly, and the meat market guys just thought it was a hoot. They just loved it.
Did you guys, I know you mentioned you guys did like a lot of gardening stuff. Do you remember doing a lot of preserving of that stuff?
Oh, yes, yes.
How did you guys generally preserve a lot of your...
Can it. Can it. You had a pressure canner, and you had to back in those days, because with the ration, you just wouldn't have enough. You really wouldn't. I canned things all my life. When the kids were growing up, I had a big garden, and that's what saved us, having that food all winter long. I had a good life. I never felt that I was deprived of anything. I really didn't. We didn't have a lot, but we had a lot. People were happy. They were poor, but they were happy.
Any regrets in life?
Oh, you always have some regrets, but you just have to blow them away. Just like I regretted not coming home when Grandma died like I was supposed to.
Yeah.
But you can't hang on to them. The regrets will be there, but you handle them and put them on the shelf. So we went back to Boone, Iowa, where his folks lived, and they helped us find this house in the country. And we moved into that house in the country. It was about 2 miles out of town, maybe 3. At least probably 2 miles from them and 3 from town. And that's when the hunting incident you were mentioning came up. He knew a bunch of the guys, and his dad, they always went pheasant hunting on opening day. That was always the big deal. You never missed that. That was a unwritten rule. So they all piled in the car and they left. And I had to go into town to get groceries or something. And Howard had gone with his dad in his dad's car and like a bunch of other men. And I had a rifle in the car and didn't think anything about it because it was always in the car. Howard always had something in there. And I was driving into town, and lo and behold, here was this field that was just loaded with pheasant. And I thought, I've got a license, why don't I try to get one? So I got out of the car, and lo and behold, I did get a pheasant. And I put it back in the car and went on into town, did my shopping, and went home. And I never cleaned a bird or anything in my life, so it was just sitting on the porch. And that night, they all came home, and I said, how would you do? You know, how was your day? And he said, oh, we didn't get a darn thing, and we hardly saw anything, let alone get anything. And I laughed, and I said, well, there's something out on the porch for you. And he said, what? I said, well, when I was going to town today, I shot a pheasant. And he about flipped.
Anything that you can think of in your lifetime that you maybe consider one of the hardest things or struggles you kind of had or had to get over?
Oh, it's all a struggle. It's just, you just have to say that's just part of life and keep going. I mean, from sicknesses to money problems to everything, you know, we've all had them, every one of us. And you can either let them make you a stronger person or you can let them break you. I mean, that's a choice in life. And so you decide how you want to behave.